Mr. Seleka. Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon, Mr. Chair.
Are you ready now?
We are ready indeed, Mr. Chair.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
The witness for this evening, Chairperson, is Mr. Abraham Masango. And
Yes.
I think he will be ready to take the oath of affirmation.
Yes, please administer the oath of affirmation.
Please state your full names for the record.
Abraham Abimasang.
Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that evidence will give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Is he represented by legal
Yes.
representatives who need to put themselves on record?
Yes, Chair. He
I'll
is
let them do
represented.
so.
Thank you.
Yes, they can do so from where they are.
Mr. Chairperson, Old Wage, OLDWADG is my surname, initials KC. I am from the Johannesburg Bar, and I'm instructed in this matter to represent Mr. Masango by Nikki Galactio Incorporated, and from that firm I have seated to my right, Ms. K. Naidu.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, thank you. We thank everybody for making themselves available to come for an evening session to help us to try and do and hear the evidence of as many witnesses as possible to finish within the time that we have. And also all the cooperation from the legal representatives of all parties. Okay, Mr. Seleka,
Thank you, Chair.
are you ready?
I am, Chair.
You might wish to, for the benefit of the public who may be listening or watching, you might wish to say a few words in terms of how Mr. Masango's evidence connects with the evidence or the evidence relating to ESCOM, or to what issues it relates.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Masango is a former employee of ESCOM. He has testified also before the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. There he indicated that he was called to Melrose Arch by Mr. Machela Koko, and that this happened on the day prior to the suspension of the executives on the 11th of March 2015. So his testimony relates to the theme we have called the suspensions of the executives, and he will give his version in regard to what transpired on that occasion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making yourself available, Mr. Masango, to assist the Commission. Okay.
Okay. Mr.
You may
Masango.
proceed, Mr. Seleka.
Thank you, Chair. Just remember to speak to the microphone. Chairperson, for this session, we'll be using ESCOM Bundle 14, Exhibit U25.
Okay.
Mr. Masango, the same bundle is before you. And if you look at Exhibit U25, we are going to refer, for the purposes of the page numbering, to the page numbers on the top left-hand corner, the black numbers. There are red numbers. You can ignore the red numbers, concentrate on the black ones. Mr. Masango, you did work for ESCOM.
Yes.
Can you tell the chairperson for how long you worked for ESCOM?
Say it again.
Can you tell the chairperson for how long did you work for ESCOM?
Chair, I worked for ESCOM for 22 years. I joined ESCOM in 1996, December, and then I resigned in 2018, November. I've worked in various divisions, various departments, mainly in generation, operation, production, as well as the projects.
Yes. Turn to page 3 in that bundle, 14. There is an affidavit there which runs from that page to page 11. I would like you to confirm that that is your affidavit.
Yes, Chair, it is my affidavit.
It's dated 5 November 2020. So when did you leave ESCOM, Mr.
Do
Masango?
you want to just confirm as a formality that the first signature on page 11 is his signature?
Thank you, Chairperson. On page 11, Mr. Masango.
Yes, it is my signature, Chair.
Yes, and the contents of the affidavit are, to the best of your knowledge and belief, true and correct, is that right?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Selega, would you like me to admit the affidavit as an exhibit?
Yes. Chairperson, will that be U25? U25.
The affidavit of Mr. Abraham A.B. Masango, starting at page 3, will be admitted as exhibit U25. Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. But just to also point out that there are annexures to the affidavit, Chairperson.
Yes, they will fall under the same exhibit number.
Mr. Masango, when did you leave ESCOM?
I left ESCOM November 2018.
November 2018. What are your qualifications?
My qualification, I've got National Diploma in Mechanical Engineering, National Higher Diploma in Mechanical Engineering, Masters in Project Management.
Masters in Project Management. We see from your affidavit that you state that you were project director for 8 years for the Kusile Power Project.
Yes, I started in the power station at Tenrina Power Station. From there, I moved to Mpumalanga Projects. And then in 2007, I moved to Kusile as a project director for 8 years.
For 8 years. So you had people working under you and reporting to you.
Yeah, I had a lot of team of people working for me. And the people that were reporting to me were also managing various contractors. On site, we had plus minus 80 main contractors.
Yeah. So you are, based on your evidence, quite a learned person, but not only that, also a leader.
Correct, Chair.
And that is apparent, for instance, from the paragraphs in your affidavit, paragraph 2.2, which will be
Did you say paragraph 2.2? Mr. Select?
no, not 2.2, Chairperson. I think it's a different paragraph. Paragraph 8, for instance, paragraph 8 on page 4, I beg your pardon, Chairperson. You see that, Mr. Masango?
Paragraph 8, page 4.
Yes.
Yes.
That you were project director at Kusile. And one of the persons who would have reported to you would have been Ms. Ntlantla Krai.
Yeah, Contractor, Chair, was the finance manager for Kusile project, and he was reporting to me, those seconded from the finance department.
What was the position you occupied at ESCOM at the time of the suspensions, namely 11 March 2015?
At that time, I was still a project director at Kusile.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, that was going to be my next question. Back in March 2015, the permanent position that you occupied. Now, who did you report to in that position, Mr. Masango?
In that position, Chair, I was reporting to Dan Marokana. Mr. Marokana was responsible for all group capital projects. So Kusile was one of the mega projects that was reporting to Dan Marokana.
Now, his designation, it's, you could assist us there, group executive what?
His designation at the time was a group executive for group capital.
Group capital. Now, we have learned from your evidence at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee and from your affidavit that a change came about on the 11th of March 2015 in regard to your position, in regard to Mr. Dan Marokana's position, when you were appointed to act. Can you tell the chairperson how did that come about?
Chair, on the 10th of March 2015, I was still the project director at Kusile. Now, the project nature is that from time to time we go and present to different committees. And if you look at the threshold in the committees, particularly the procurement, financial procurement committees, they range from 10 million up to above 750 million. Now, some of the committees you'll find that are established on site, some are established at head office, which is at Midrand. So on that particular day, there was a presentation. Though on my affidavit, Chair, I'm very clear that I don't remember because there's so many submissions that get presented at different levels. Some I do attend, particularly those that go to EXCOPs. EXCOP is a subcommittee of EXCO. And then you've got the board tender committee. So most of the time, all the submission that goes to EXCOPs, which is a subcommittee of EXCO, I'm required to attend, as well as those that goes to the board.
So the committees to which you refer when you talk about presentations, those are not board committees, they are committees under the executives.
Yeah, they are subcommittees.
But not of the board? Or do they include board members?
Yeah, when we talk about the board tender committee, it includes the board members, but it's not a complete board.
Oh, okay. It's not, So, because you see, there will be a full board,
Yes.
and the board will establish its own committees.
Yes.
And those committees would consist of board members.
Correct, Chair.
And that might include the CEO and the CFO,
Yes.
who usually would be part of the board, but they are executives.
Yeah, you are
But
quite correct.
Within management, there may be other committees
Yes.
which have got nothing to do with the board. So that's the distinction I'm trying to establish, whether the committees you're talking about are committees that are established by the executives or management, or whether they are committees that are board committees.
Both, Chair.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
The board tender committee is established by the board.
Board, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the EXCOPs is established by EXCO.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
then you go down, you've got other committees
Yes.
depending on the threshold.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay. You may continue.
Yes. Chair, I went to Megawatt Park from Mpumalanga. Gusile is situated at Malahleni Wheat Bank. And then I went for the presentation. And I must also point out, Chair, on that week or on that particular day, my supervisor, who's Dan Marokana, was on leave. So Machela Koko was also reporting to Dan Marokana, doing engineering and procurement. So he was standing in for Mr. Marokana. So I did my presentation. It was during the midday. After I completed, I was moving out of Megawatt Park on my way back to the project.
This was on the 10th of,
On the
of
10th.
March
On the
2015.
10th of March.
Okay.
Yeah. As I was driving out of Megawatt Park heading to Kusile project, I received a call from Machela Koko. He requested to meet. I did not object to the meeting because Koko at the time was my senior and he was also standing in for my supervisor, who was then Moroccan. So I asked him where we're going to meet. He said, we're going to meet at Melrose Arch. I said, I'm not familiar with the place. He said, I will give you direction. In the car, I was not alone. I was with Sbusiso Ntuli, who was the driver. And then,
Was Busiso Ntuli also an ESCOM employee or not?
yes, he was an ESCOM employee. However, in the nature of the project, there are those employees that we don't employ them permanent. So we employ them for a particular duration to assist.
Okay.
So by the virtue of that, is a contractor,
Yeah.
but is working for ESCOM.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So we drove, Chair. We drove to Melrose Arch. I didn't know the area. And then Machela Koko was giving the direction in terms of which road we must use, where we must off-ramp. We off-ramp to Melrose Arch, and then he was giving the direction until we arrived where he was. It was for the first time for me to arrive in that area, but as he was explaining where we must meet him, I could, before we get closer to the building, I could see him standing on a balcony, and then he could see the car. And then we went, my driver dropped me off, I took my phone, I went up to him. Now, Chair, if you look at ESCOM, if you look at its magnitude, it's not unusual to always have unplanned meetings, depending on the circumstances and the urgency of it. Sometimes we do have meetings during the weekend, depending on the pressure and all that. So it was not unusual for at the time for me, if I'm called to a meeting, not to respond to that meeting, particularly if you are called by your senior. So
did you say that you had come from Kusile to Megawatt Park?
Yes.
But as you were leaving Megawatt Park to go back, you got this call.
Correct, Chair.
And then you then turned to go to where Mr. Koko wanted you to go.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, all right, continue.
Yeah. No, sorry, Mr. Masango, just as you proceed, you were explaining just before the chairperson asked you a question that this would not have been unusual to be called by your senior.
Yes.
Yeah. But would it also entail being called to a meeting outside of your offices without knowing what the purpose of the meeting was?
Yes, Chair. Most of the time, to get things go quicker, we were not always rigid that the meetings must take place at Megawatt Park. We'll always look for the convenience place. So from that point of view, and I must also mention, Chair, that prior being called to Melrose Arch, I did see Coco in the building at Megawatt Park, and then we greeted each other. I focused on my business. Then on my way out, then the call came in.
Or you had seen him at Megawatt Park?
Yes, he was.
Oh, okay.
Prior for me going to the boardroom where I was going to make the presentation.
Okay.
But he never mentioned any
Yeah.
meeting that there's gonna be a meeting.
Okay, all right.
And from time to time, Chair, because we spend most of our time in projects, when we come to head office, I would not come to Megawatt Park without going, for example, to Dan Marokana's office.
To report
As
that
my
you are
supervisor,
here.
I'll go
Yes.
in and say, I'm here, this is what I'm going to do, but this is the situation at the project. So that distance, we always had it.
Yeah,
Because we don't have, most of the time, we don't have time to interact with them because they are head office, we are in the on
Yes.
site.
Okay. Yes, continue.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair. Part of my question was, even if you meet at a convenient place, would you not know the purpose of the meeting? Or would you know?
Well, both. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't. For example, let me say if Dan Marokana says, Abraham, I'm from Nellyspruit going to Joburg. Where are you? I'll say maybe I'm on site. He say, let's drink tea, with the intention that he wants to get update without like specifying what is the purpose of the meeting. In other instances, let me put it this way, the scheduled meeting, they always have the agenda. But the meetings that are not scheduled, you go there, then you put your point forward in terms of what you want to discuss.
I interrupted you while you were narrating the story that you were going to the venue where Mr. Koko had asked you to come. You were in a car with Sbusiso who?
Sbusiso Ntuli.
Sbusiso Ntuli. And you had seen Mr. Koko in a building and
Standing on a balcony of the building.
Yes. Maybe you should continue to tell us, yeah.
Then I jump off the car, Chair. I went straight to him. I was mindful of the time because there were meetings that were scheduled on site. So I wanted to be on site as quick as possible. So I quickly jumped off the car, went
And
to
round
go.
about what time was it of the day when you arrived where?
Chair, I don't want to
was-
be quoted in terms of the time, but it was, I think it was plus minus midday, plus
Oh, okay.
before, just around
Around
after
midday.
12. Yeah, I don't want to be quoted on the time.
Yeah, okay. And before you proceed, were you coming to this area, Melrose Arch, for the first time? Or not really?
Chair, for me, it was for the first time.
It was for the first
It was
time.
for the first time.
Since then, have you gone back, or you have never gone back to Melrose Arch, by any chance?
Yeah, Chair, between that and now, you know, I used
You've been
to
there.
then, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, anyway, you proceed, got out of the car and
Yeah, Chair,
what happened?
then I went straight to him with the steps, and then he greeted me again. And then he says, let's move to office. But as I was about to enter the office, he asked my cell phone. He took my cell phone. So I went into the office without my cell phone. He took my cell phone and his cell phone.
Yeah.
He handed them to somebody. Then we went inside a small office.
Yes, now, this building Was there any name, or these offices, was there any name that you could see?
Chair,
or not
I
yet?
didn't observe any name.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
And if you were to go back to the same building, do you think you would be able to get to it, or you don't think so?
Chair, I don't think I'll be able to get exactly there, but I can be able to say
It was what area?
it was around this area.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right. Continue.
And Chair, you will see as I move on, why even when I left, I couldn't like pay a lot of attention
Yes.
because now I was
Yeah, okay.
I was
right.
digesting what was
Yes.
going on.
So you got into the office?
Yeah, we got into the small office. When we got inside, we met a gentleman. And then Machela Koko introduced me to the gentleman by the name of Salim Issa. And then I greeted the gentleman, but the gentleman didn't say a word at a time. And then Koko led the
He
discussion.
didn't even greet back?
Well, he did greet back.
Oh,
He
okay.
did greet back, and then Koko led the discussion. In his discussion, it was very short. If I recall very well, Chair, the meeting did not even take more than 10 minutes to be safe.
Yes.
Yeah. What Koko said to me, Koko used to call me Maki, because at some stage we were neighbors.
Oh, so he called you Maki.
Yeah, it's like
That's,
Makelwane Maki.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Zulu, Xhosa
Yeah,
for
yeah.
neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So he says, Maki, we're going to be suspended. That's what he said.
He says we are going to be
He
suspended.
says we are going to be suspended.
Yes.
He says there's 4 executives that are going to be suspended. I'm one of them. Then he mentioned them. He said it's Sediso Matuna, Sulufelo Molife, Dan Marokana, and himself. And then he went further and say, after the suspension, the other 3 will not come back. He will come back. He will return. Use the word return.
He himself would
He himself,
return,
he will return.
but the other 3 would not return.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I was shocked and very confused, because in terms of where I am on the site, I'm a level below where they are. So one would not have all the knowledge or the understanding in terms of what is going on at the head office. So I did ask a question and say, but why 4 executives? And then I went further, I say, you know what, that is going to create chaos for ESCOM. It can't be done. What is the reason? In other words, I did not believe it, Chair, and that's the reason for my question to say, why are they going to be suspended? What were the reason? He never gave me the reason. Instead, he carried on with the discussion. He then addressed Salim Issa, and say, Abraham Masango has got the capability to act as a group chief executive. Now it confused me more, because in terms of the ESCOM structure, you've got group chief executives, then you've got executives, then you had us. And in terms of my understanding, in terms of the EXCO, there were other executives. Now, if you mention that, I got more confused to say, but what is really going on? And I think I asked again a question. I said, no, but that cannot be true. Why 4 executives will be suspended? And then he addressed Issa and said, Abraham is one of the guys that can act. In other words, he was telling Issa that I can act, but he did not say as a group executive for Group Capital. He says he can act as a group chief executive.
It's GCEO.
Yes, the CEO.
Yeah, that's Matona's position.
That's
at the time.
Matuna's position, Chair.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
And
yes.
it got me more confused.
Yes.
So I said, look, I don't understand what's going on. But in my mind, I don't think it will be good, because it's just going to create more problems for ESCOM. And Chair, you'll remember at the time, ESCOM was facing a lot of problems, including load shedding. Things were not really going very well. And Sediso Matuna was 6 months in the position. So things were really not going very well. So with my little understanding of things at the time, I realized that, but this type of decision will create bigger problem than what we have. And that's my beef in terms of keep on insisting and say, but what were the reasons? And the reason never came forth. And then,
What did Mr. Essa say in response to the statement by Mr. Koko that
he never,
you were capable of acting in the position of Group Chief Executive?
he never said the word chair on that. He was, most of the time he was very quiet.
Okay.
And then when Koko finished that, he says, no, I'm okay, it's fine.
It's Mr. Essa saying that?
No, it's Koko.
Oh, yeah.
Who's saying, okay, no, the meeting is okay. He says, Maki, no, everything is fine. But as I was standing up to leave, then Essa made a comment to say that for the lack of better words, Chair, he says, Abraham, you guys, you are messing up with the projects. You must, for the lack of better words, he says, you must deal with these contractors. If, Chair, you remember very well, at the time, there were a lot of media articles on ESCOM in terms of the claims. Some of the contractors were claiming an amount that is more than the project budget. So he says, no, you guys, you're messing up on the project. You must deal with these contractors so that you fix those claims. And Chair, I must say that one of the things that I did not do, I did not at the time establish in terms of where Salim Issa fit in the picture. So in my mind, I thought maybe it's one of the officials that is working for the government, our shareholder in this case, which is DPE. So that was the comment that Essa made. I never responded on the comment, and Koko never responded as well. Then I went out, then they gave me my cell phone. Then I went down the stairs. He accompanied me a bit to a point where I met him when I was coming in. Then he went back, then I went to the car.
Is that Mr. Koko now?
Is that Mr. Koko?
Before the meeting started, did he not have some conversation with you before you
No,
went
Chair.
in?
There was no conversation.
And after the two of you left the meeting as he was walking you out, was there some discussion that the two of you had before he turned back?
No, there was no discussion except he said, no, we'll talk.
Oh.
As I say, Baba, he says, no, Maki, we'll talk.
Okay.
Then off
Okay.
I left.
And while you were at the meeting, was Sbusiso Ntuli in the car?
Spusiso was in the car.
In the car. So he would have seen him, he would have seen you meet him and then meet Mr. Koko to go in.
Yeah,
to
I'm quite sure that, Chair,
And
though
when he came back?
I never asked Spusiso, but I'm quite sure that Spusiso did manage to see him
Yes.
at the
On the
balcony.
balcony. But when Mr. Koko walked you back after the meeting, would Mr. Ntuli have seen him as well?
Yeah, if I remember very well, Chair, once you park closer to the building, it's difficult to see up. But if you approach the building,
Yeah.
you can see.
Yes.
Yeah, but once you get closer, then it
Yes.
becomes like
Difficult.
too vertical to see. But
Okay.
all I'm saying is that probably when we were approaching, following the direction, Spusiso would have seen it because I could
Yeah.
see him while I was
Yes.
in the car.
Okay, all right.
Yes, thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Seleka?
Mr. Masango, but when you went back to the car, did you gather from, in your talking with Mr. Ntuli, whether he would have been aware that the person he saw was Mr. Koko?
No, I never engaged, except that when I was called to Melrose Arch, I did mention to Sibusise to say, hey, my acting boss is calling me at Melrose Arch.
Does he know Mr. Cook?
Yes.
He knows him?
Yeah, he
Okay.
knows Mr. Cook.
Just quickly back to Mr. Salim Essa. I see in your affidavit that he used rather a strong purpose word.
Yeah, well, he used a very strong word, Chair, when he was saying that we must deal with the contractors.
So he used the F word.
He said, you guys, you must F the contractors and basically fire them if they don't perform. And I must say, Chair, that given what was going on other than the language that he used, at the time the projects were in trouble. Actually, after the arrival of Dan Marokana, we were starting to get the grip and the grasp of the contract, managing the projects, getting the momentum. But at the beginning, it was difficult to get them going. So the positive out of that was that he was aware that what is happening, because some of the commercial claims that were put by the contractors were in the public space. Everyone who was observant will read and understand that, hang on, things seems as if they are not going very well in these big projects.
Yes, these contractors he's referring to, is it companies contracting with ESCOM?
That's correct, Chair.
And did you understand him to say you should manage their contracts properly, or that you should get rid of them?
Well, in my view, both, because the contracts that we had between ESCOM and the contractors from ESCOM side were managed by us. So in essence, he was saying that the contractors that are not, we must manage the contractors, and the contractors that are not performing, we must get rid of them. That's how I understood
I see.
the conversation.
Yeah. So you go back into the car. What do you tell your driver?
Well, I instructed Sibusiso, my driver, to say, let's drive, Sibu. Let's drive back to Mpumalanga. I never told Sibusiso what happened.
In the meeting?
In the meeting, because Sibusiso, you know, if you look at the gradings, Sibusiso, the drivers are at the lower grading, so you would not probably understand, because his role is to do the driving. Okay. But Chair, what I did when I got into the car, I told Sibusiso that let's drive back to the project. Then I called Dan Marokana. Then Marokana did not answer.
Yes. Let me ask you this, just before that. At the time you hand your phone over to Mr. Koko, is your phone on or off?
The phone was on.
It was on?
Yeah.
So it remained on until you were given it back?
Yes.
Okay.
So I called Dan Marokana. I knew that Dan was on leave, and Chair, Dan did not answer my call. I tried him, he did not answer my call, and when I look at my phone, I saw the missed call of Miss Nhlanhla Cry, because the reason I was supposed to go to Kusile was for the scheduled meetings that I had. Now, the second person that I called, and it was Nhlanhla Cry, Miss Nhlanhla Cry, my finance manager. I briefly told her that, look, you couldn't get hold of me. I was in this meeting, but this meeting shocked me. And because I've already missed the meetings that I was supposed to have at Kusile with Miss Nhlanhla Cry to prepare for the next meeting, the way we used to do things, when we were going to have a meeting that is got to do with the finance, I'll upfront have a meeting with the finance manager to take me through the numbers, so that when we go to a meeting, when I address the team, I know what I'm talking about. So the following day, which was the 11th, we were supposed to have a meeting with the entire project team. So I was going to talk about the presentation that Mrs. Nhlanhla Cry has prepared to me to address the team. And the presentation was around the multi-year price determination, because the team contribute in terms of these numbers when we submit them to head office. So we're going to dry run the presentation before we submit it, so that each and every department in the project confirm their numbers and say these are the numbers, they can be submitted to head office. So prior to that, I will have a meeting with the finance manager, sometimes with her and the team, so that at least I understand them better. So I did indicate to Mrs. Nhlanhla Cry that I'm from this meeting, but this was a funny meeting that really, it shocked me. And eventually, myself and Mrs. Nhlanhla Cry, we met. I did articulate what I came across. And I must say, Chair, that at the time I was a bit scared as well, because I couldn't understand what is going on. So I related the story to Ms. Nhlanhla Cry. I also asked her not to mention it, but I said to him, don't mention it until I meet Dan Marokana. Dan should be able to give me his understanding of things, because now I still don't believe what I heard, and I don't think it will happen. Then we met, myself and Nhlanhla, we discussed that. And then I'm summarizing, eventually I went home.
Just before that, don't summarize too much, because in case your version is disputed, by somebody, so it's important that we know at least the important parts. Can I take you back to when you left the meeting at Melrose Arch? What were your thoughts about what you had been told?
Can you repeat the question, Chair?
What were your thoughts after you had, when you came out of this meeting and reflecting on what you had just been told? Are you able to remember, as you were trying to make sense of it, maybe because you say you did not believe that it was going to happen?
Chair, what was going through my mind at the time was the disbelief, to say, but suspending 4 executives on critical position, it does not make sense at all. And given the working relationship with Mr. Dan Marokan, he was keeping us posted as his subordinates all the time. So in my mind, I thought that if it's not coming from Dan, I must not trust it or believe it. And that's the reason my first call was to him, to want to go and meet him and try and understand where is he, so that he makes sense of what I've heard. Unfortunately, he couldn't answer my call.
And in the meeting, Mr. Gogo had he said when the suspensions would occur?
Yes, it did indicate, Chair. He said tomorrow.
Which would be the 11th.
Yeah, he said tomorrow.
Yes. Okay. When you left the meeting, had he said that you were going to act in a particular position after the suspensions had happened, or he had not said that? He simply had said to Mr. Salim Essa, you had the capability to act as group chief executive.
That's what he said, Chair.
Yes.
Nothing else.
And was that the only position in respect of which he spoke about you acting?
Yeah, he just mentioned that.
Yeah, I didn't mention any other
Yeah,
position.
he just mentioned that as he was leading the conversation.
Yes. Okay, all right.
The only observation, Chair, that I observe, he was very nervous himself.
Oh,
Then I couldn't really understand because, well, I knew him, but he was like very nervous and very worried.
in terms of his demeanor.
Yeah, in terms of his demeanor, and that's what confused me more to say, but what's really going on?
Yes. Yeah, well, that's observation is interesting because I think another witness who said he had I think it's a she,
Yes.
had a meeting with Mr. Koko and Mr. Salim Essa on the same day, who says she was told the same thing, said that although Mr. Koko told, I don't know whether it was Mr. Koko or Mr. Salim Essa who spoke most of the time in that meeting, but although they told her that 4 executives would be suspended, she said Mr. Koko didn't seem to be concerned or worried about the fact that he would be suspended. But of course, what you have told me is that although he said to you that he was going to be one of those to be suspended, he said that in the end he would return to work, but the other 3 executives would not return to work. Yes, that's what you said.
Yes,
That's right. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And then if you go back to what you told Ms. Cry, it's important that you tell us the main features or the points that you told her in the telephone conversation and then at the meeting that you subsequently had with her. Start with the telephone conversation. Okay?
Chair, on the telephone, I never explained a lot to Mrs. Cry.
Yes.
Yeah, I did mention that I'm from another meeting, but the meeting was a very strange meeting. We'll talk when we meet.
Okay.
But when I met her, I did explain to her to say this is what happened.
When you met her, was it the same day or the following day?
Chair, I don't remember very well, but if I recall very well, is that I met Miss Cry on the same day.
Okay.
But I stand to be corrected, Chair.
Okay.
But if it was not on the same day, probably it was the following
The
day.
day after.
Yeah.
Okay. And where did you meet, the two of you?
Chair, if I recall very well, I met Nhlanhla on my way to
Kosila?
Gusile.
Yes.
Because on that day, that was my last meeting when I met Nhlanhla. Then I drove, then from there I drove home because my
Yes.
diary was already messed up.
Yes. But did you meet at work? Did you meet?
No, I did not meet Nhlanhla Cry on at work. I met him on my way. And there's something that says in my mind, Chair, I think I met him on my way going to Mpumalanga because I slept in Mpumalanga and
Yes.
Nhlanhla was staying at Midrand.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you say you met her on your way, do you mean like you stopped your cars on the road and had a chat? Or did you meet in a restaurant or
Yes,
whatever?
Chair, I don't remember very well, but
Yeah.
he was driving from that side towards Joburg. I was driving towards Mpumalanga.
Okay.
So if I recall very well, we met there.
On the
But
road.
Chair, again, I don't want to be tied to that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to
Yes.
remember.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you can't.
Nkandla might have another version, but between that day and the morning,
Yeah.
we did meet.
Yes, but you can't remember where.
Yeah.
Whether it was on
And I
the
don't
side
remember
of
the time
road
as well,
or-
Chair.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
all right. And tell me about your conversation when you met them.
Well, when I met Nhlanhla, there were two things that we discussed. One, we discussed what we were supposed to discuss at Gusile in terms of the presentation that we were going to submit to head office. And then I explained the story to him, what happened when I left Megawatt Park. And I explained to him the way I.
Is it a him or a her?
A her.
Oh, it's
A
a
her,
her,
Chair. It's a
okay.
she, it's a she.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I explained to her what happened to me, and we went there, and I explained what was the conversation and. And there was another reason, Chair, that I explained to her what happened, because I was confused and not understanding. So I said, you know what, in case something happened, at least I would have confided to someone.
So you told her about your meeting at
I
Melrose Arch,
told her about my meeting.
and basically what you had been told there.
Yeah, yes, exactly what I've explained.
And
And he
what-
was also shocked. When
She was shocked.
She was shocked when I explained that.
Yes. Mr. Slega?
Mr. Masango, by that time, did you know the name of the man Mr. Koko introduced you to?
Well, that's the other thing, Chair. I battled to capture it because things were happening so fast. When I met Mrs. Cry, I couldn't give Mrs. Cry the full name Salim Issa. But of course, as days goes on, I started to want to understand who was that man and start to understand who's the guy that we really met, what is his name and what is his role in the whole sphere of things. But at the time when I met Nhlanhla Cry, I couldn't even capture the exact full name. But Issa, I remembered Issa, but the Salim I couldn't remember. So I couldn't capture the full name as I left that building.
Yeah.
And Chair, the other reason was that the way the meeting was structured and the way that it ran, it was more of informing than a discussion, because we get to the meeting, then he led the discussion until the end.
That's now at Melrose Arch.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So did your confiding in Ms. Cry also involve the exact information given to you by Mr. Koko that 4 executives will be suspended, and these are their names, but I will return as Mr. Koko?
Say it again.
Did you outline or set out to Ms. Cry exactly what Mr. Koko had told you, which is 4 executives will be suspended, but I, Mr. Koko, will return?
Yes, I related exactly that, Chair. And I also related to Mrs. Cry that I couldn't get the reason why they are going to be suspended.
Just by way of information, before we carry on in regard to your evidence, Chair, the evidence of a witness who has already testified here, Ms. Suzanne Daniels, relating a similar story, says when she entered the offices, she could not see a plaque on the outside of the office. I've seen in your written submission to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee that you say there was no nameplate
Yeah.
at the entrance of the office.
Chair, I don't remember seeing any.
She carries on to say, we were greeted by a receptionist and Koko instructed me to hand my mobile to the receptionist. And we proceeded to enter a mini boardroom, waited for someone to join. And then the person joins, that person was Mr. Salim Essa, who introduced himself as the advisor to Minister Brown. He was not introduced to you as the advisor to Minister Brown.
Chair, he was never introduced to me as an advisor. Koko introduced him with a name.
I see. Then the last thing is,
Chair, what I did not mention, which I think is very important, as I was going to the office, there was a security guy. He was standing there, and when we entered the office, there were two ladies that were busy, but I couldn't pay a lot of attention because I was following him. So that's what I could recall, that there was a security guy, and then there were two ladies that were busy there. But I never pay attention to them because I was walking behind him, following him.
I think the point the chairperson wanted earlier to refer to was that on this occasion, according to Ms. Daniels, the person who did the talking was actually Mr. Salim Essa. And when it came to the suspensions, she looked at Mr. Koko in shock. However, Mr. Koko appeared composed. According to her, you saying, to you, he appeared nervous and very worried.
Yes, Chair. That was my observation. And like I said, he led the discussion.
Yes.
Me knowing him, I concluded that, he's not himself. He was very, very nervous. And as he was saying that to me, that they will be suspended, and when he was saying that he will return, he was basically looking at Salim Issa. So, and that was my observation.
Yeah. Thank you. How long had you known him by this time? This is March 2015. Mr. Koko, and maybe you could explain how it came about the two of you called each other neighbors or maki. The meeting you said. That happens that way off.
Chair, nothing relevant to the meeting that happened during that night. And being tired, I slept.
Mr. Marokana didn't come back and return your call?
Yeah, Mr. Marokan didn't come back on the same day.
Yes, okay.
He didn't
When
return.
did he come back?
I think the following day, Chair, if I remember very well.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. When I wake up, Chair, when I wake up in the morning, I saw a lot of missed call on my cell phone. And as I was listening to the voice message, then now is the following day, the 11th.
11th
Yeah.
of March, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a voice meeting to say that Amalisela, please, you must come and meet the chairman at 8 o'clock. That now, at the time, the chairman was Zola, Mr. Zola Tsotsi. Chair, and Chair, this one I don't remember very well, but Coco called before I met Zola, Mr. Zola Tsotsi. Now, what I don't remember well, Chair, is that whether he called prior to the following day or the following day in the morning, but his call to me was very short. He said to me, Maki, you are talking.
Maki, you are?
You are talking.
That was Mr. Koko.
Yeah, saying to me.
Yes, around about what time was it when he called, if you are able to remember?
Chair Hensa said that I don't remember very well, but the next relevant conversation around just after Mrs. Cry,
Yes.
which is relevant, he called. He says, Maki, you are talking. Actually, he used the Zulu word. He says, Maki, you are kulum.
Which means, Maki, you are talking.
Yes. So
And what did you understand this to mean, or did he explain to you what he meant?
I said, what do you mean I'm talking? He says, we are kulum. He left it there.
Oh,
But I also left it there, Chair.
did you understand then or sometime
understood.
after what he meant?
I understood later.
Later?
Yeah, and I'll talk about it.
Yes, okay. What
Yeah.
was your understanding?
At the time, I
You
couldn't
didn't understand at the time?
At the time, I couldn't understand.
Okay, but
what
later you did
I
understand?
did understand.
Yeah, tell me what you understood later, even though you will get to that point at some stage. What was
Yeah.
your understanding of what he meant when he said, Maki, you are talking?
Yeah, after I met Mr. Marokan, he
Yes.
called me.
Yes, again.
Yeah, he says, we are kulum.
Again.
And you had a meeting with Mr. Marokan. Then I started to connect,
Yes.
to say, it seems as if I'm tracked now, where
Yeah.
So that was my understanding, to say, I'm on the spotlight in terms of maybe my movement, but I couldn't determine how.
Yes.
But I concluded myself to say, you know what,
Yeah.
my movement,
Are being monitored.
or I'm being listened to.
Yeah.
That's how, when I say I understood later,
Yes,
that's
okay.
what I meant.
Okay, all right. Okay, you were going to, Mr. Selega, you continue?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. So, Mr. Masango, at the time, when he says you are kuluma, did you simply, what is your response? Let me not put permutations to you. What is your response? Because you don't understand what is he talking about, so how do you respond to him?
Well, I said no. When after talking to Mrs. Cry, when he phones, he says we are kuluma. I said, what do you mean? He says we are kuluma. Then he left me there.
Well, you know, Ms. Daniels also talks about after received her cell phone, she made telephone calls and she was called. And Mr. Koko also told her that she's talking. So that reminds, what you're saying now reminds me of evidence as well. Anyway, so that's the next day. You say you have received missed calls, but there is a voice message left on your cell phone.
Yes.
The voice says, this is Malisela. You are being asked to meet with the chairperson in the morning of the 11th.
At 8 o'clock.
So the chairperson is Mr. Tsotsi. He's in Joburg. So you are supposed to come from...
Then I must drive from Mpumalanga back to head office.
Is that what you did?
Yeah. There was a meeting scheduled 7 o'clock between my colleagues and Mr. Den Marokana the following day. Though Den was on leave, we never questioned that, because when he was on leave, we'll always ask somebody to chair the meeting and all that, because we were reporting to him. But that meeting, I was going to have a teleconference with the head office guys and then at the head office because we were minimizing the traveling. So when I got that message that the chairman wants to see me at 8 o'clock, then I decided to drive. Instead of attending that meeting via telecon, I went straight to that meeting at 7 o'clock. The meeting was dealing with the claims in different projects. I attended the meeting. Peter Sibula chaired the meeting. Peter Sibula was the executive responsible for the contract management department. All the specialists from contract management point of view were coming from that department, seconded to us. The meeting was scheduled to finish at 8 o'clock. It did finish, and then when it finished before 8, then I walked to the chairman's office. When I arrived at the chairman's office, it was around shortly before 8. But when I got to the office of the chairman, I found Nonkululeko Veleti. I found Nonkululeko Veleti Dlamini. Then Nonkululeko was the finance manager responsible for all the projects. Mrs. Ntlantla Krai was reporting to Miss Veleti, Nonkululeko Veleti Dlamini, but seconded to the project. So while I'm greeting Nonkululeko, Mr. Edwin Mabelana arrives. When Mr. Edwin Mabelana arrived, he's carrying a folder. Then he greeted us. While he's greeting us, Malisela, who was the secretary of the company, he comes in, but he comes from the boardroom. Then he requested us to follow him to the boardroom.
That is yourself?
It's
Ms.
myself
Veleti?
and Edwin Mabelan.
Okay, all right.
And now, again, Chair, I started to think about yesterday to say, but what is going on? And between the three of us, we never discussed. No one mentioned that, hey, I'm having a meeting with the chair at 8 o'clock and all that and all that. But the secretary of the secretariat comes out of the boardroom. He called us. All three of us, we followed him. We went into the boardroom. When we went inside the boardroom, there were other board members. I don't remember all of them, Chair, but there were few board members with Mr. Zola Tsotsi as the chairman of the company. He greeted us, we greeted back. Mr. Zola Tsotsi never wasted time as well. He then said, there are 4 executives that are going to be suspended. He mentioned them by names. And then he mentioned 2 things as the reason why the executives are going to be suspended. One, he says, is regarding the inquiry that they want to do. And when they want to do that inquiry, they don't want this executive to be at work. And then 2, they also want the inquiry must cover the issue of their performance. And then he says, he's therefore requesting us to assist them and act in the position of the executives that are going to be suspended. But he asked us, after I mentioned that, he asked us one by one and say, Edwin Mabelane, can you help us act here? Nonkululeko Veleti, can you act on Tulufelo Molife's place? And then he asked me to act on the group capital in Dan's position. And as he was asking us, we all said, look, Chair, we'll help you. And then he said, in the place of Tsediso Matuna, Mr. Zetembe Koza will act. And then he said there's 2 meetings that are arranged. The one, he wants to go and address the executives, the executive forum. And then the second one, he must go and arrange and address the media. So by the look of things, Chair, all these things were already lined up. Because after he has addressed us and asked us to act, Then he asked us to join him. Then we followed them. We went to Franklin Boardroom. Though, Chair, I don't remember very well whether he started addressing the executive first or the media, but those two meetings did take place.
So your meeting with Mr. Tsotsi, you say around about what time was it?
It was around about 8 o'clock past 8.
Okay. And you all agreed to act in the positions in which?
We all agreed that
Yes.
we will act. The only person that he did not ask, it was Mr. Zetembe. Now, one made an assumption because they had a meeting already before they call us in. Probably has already discussed it with the board members.
But did you say Mr. Zatembe Koza was at that meeting as well?
Mr. Zetembe was in the meeting, Chair.
Oh, okay. So at the meeting, it was yourself, Ms. Veleti, Mr. Malebane,
Mabelane,
Mabelane, I'm
Edwin
sorry.
Mabelane,
Edwin Mabelane, Mr. Koza, and Mr. Tsotsi.
and I think Venete Klein was also in the meeting.
Yes, okay.
But, yeah, I don't remember very well, but Mr. Koza was in the meeting. Mr. Klein Veleti was also in the meeting.
Okay, Mr. Selega.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Masango, yes, your recollection seems to come very close to what Ms. Veleti has said in her affidavit. So she says the next morning, she had a meeting with Mr. Koko on the 10th, the evening of the 10th. So now is the next morning, which is the 11th, according to her, after being called to the boardroom. In the boardroom, she says, is Mr. Zola Tsotsi, Mr. Zitembe Koza, and Ms. Venita Klein were present. She also thinks Leo Dlamini was present and another divisional executive, but she can't recall which one. Could that be Mr. Edwin Mabelani?
Well, Mr. Edwin Mabelane was there, like I said, but from the board side, other than the three of us who went in, there were few people, and without us, probably there were plus minus 4, 5 around there, but I don't remember the others, without the three of us who were called in.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. There's just one thing I need to get clarity on from you. According to the sequence of events as given by the board members who have come to testify, the meeting with the acting executive, with the persons, yourselves, who were to be appointed to act, would have happened on the 12th of March, according to the narration by them. Because on the 11th, the board had various meetings, including the meeting with the minister where the decision to suspend the executives was taken. Are you 100% certain about your dates?
Chair, I'm 100% certain about the dates. When we were asked to act, the normal procedure is that when somebody is going to act, you call him and you give him the delegation of authority to sign, so that you give him powers to execute whatever decisions might be required. We were never given the delegation of authority on the 11th, though I don't remember when we were given to sign, but on the meeting of the 11th, we were just asked whether can we help, and then things started to unfold.
Do you know whether you had another meeting with Mr. Tsotsi on the 12th?
I don't remember, Chair. I don't recall.
You see, the interesting thing about the time that you say your meeting with Mr. Tsotsi happened on the 11 is that if it happened at about 8, it would have been before the board or any of its committees had made the decision that the 4 executives should be suspended. The evidence that we have had is that there was a meeting of the board on the 9th of March, but at that board meeting, there was no discussion of the suspensions of the executives. And arrangements were made for the board to meet again on the 11th. And on the 11th, there was a meeting of the board in the morning. I don't know if we have explored the time, but there was a meeting of the board in the morning. Then that meeting was joined by the Minister of Public Enterprises, so the meeting became a meeting of the board and the Minister of Enterprises. When she had left, I think the meeting of the board continued, if I'm not mistaken. But at some stage in the afternoon, there was a meeting of the People's and Governance Committee, if I recall correctly, and that it is in that meeting that the
P&G.
possible name,
The P&G meeting?
PNG meeting. Yeah, is it not people and governance?
That's the one.
That's the
Yeah,
one,
that's
Chair.
one, yeah. At that meeting, it is at that meeting that that committee discussed the issue of which executives should be appointed to act in the positions. And that meeting was happening, I think, after lunch, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So if the meeting between yourselves, the 3 of you, and Mr. Tsotsi and Mr. Koza happened on the 12th in the morning, maybe it was because the decision to suspend had been approved or had been made, and the decision as to which executives will act in the positions of the executives who would have been suspended had been taken. But if the meeting between the 3 of you and Mr. Tsotsi happened at about 8 a.m. on the 11th, and at that meeting he asked the 3 of you to act, one would wonder whether how he could do that before the board had discussed the issue, unless, of course, he had your names in mind as the names of the people that he would suggest to the board or to the committee, and wanted you to indicate whether, in principle, if the board approved your names, you would be prepared to act or not. But from what you say, it looks like, does it look like he was saying, I'm asking you to act, or does it look like he was asking you to indicate whether, in principle, if you were to be asked to act, you would be prepared to act? Do you know which one of the two he was pursuing?
Chair, I think, okay, let me go back a bit, Chair. The date of the 10th and the date of the 11th, I'm certain about those dates,
Yes.
in my recollection.
Yeah.
And like I explained, Chair, to you that when you're going to ask somebody to act, you call him, you agree with him first, that whether he can do it or not. But also I must bring it to your attention, Chair, that the way things unfolded before we were called in, it seems as if the board was having a meeting because they locked themselves in the boardroom. We didn't even know that they are sitting in the boardroom because we went into the office of the chairman. That's where we were waiting. And then all of a sudden, Malisela came from the boardroom and called us to the boardroom. And then when we went in, we find that there were people in the boardroom.
Okay, Mr. Sileka?
Thank you. Chair, there's something I need to draw to the chairperson's attention, Mr. Masango, which you yourself might not be aware of. And we are obtaining an affidavit from this witness chairperson who writes an email on the 11th of March 2015 at 9:27 or 29.
In the morning?
In the morning.
Yeah.
She's the HR manager at Eskom. She writes and say to one of the persons within industrial relations, I think, Mr. Philip Mashego. She said, please urgently give me a step-by-step process for the suspension of the F-bands. Now you know who are the F-bands, Mr. Masango.
Yeah, I know the F-bands.
Would the 4 suspended executives at the time
Yeah, they all fell within that category.
in that category?
Yeah.
What is the category called?
It's called F-band.
Or in terms of the
The
structure?
Yes.
Yeah. So the email says,
Please provide me urgently with a step-by-step process to suspend the F-bands. But here is something, Mr. Masango, we picked up from the minutes of the meeting, slightly related to it. The minutes of the 19th of March, 2015. There's a recording there, or a caption, that the people who were asked to act, if I read it, the people who were acting in place of the suspended executives were allegedly called into a meeting and knew beforehand that they would be acting, and that the board was concerned about this, wanting to know how this happened. They were apparently called into a meeting and the acting CE met with them. This is before you would be told formally that you're going to be appointed, I suppose. Does this ring a bell? Does it remind you of any meeting?
Chair, that does not ring a bell to me.
yes.
The only 2 meetings that I recall is a Melrose Arch on the 10th
Yeah.
and the Zolatsotsi meeting at 8 o'clock on the 11th the following day.
Of course, in your evidence, there are certain areas where you have said you can't remember
Yes.
clearly, but you say that the fact that your meeting with Mr. Koko and Mr. Essa, that it was on the 10th and at Melrose Arch, that you are 100% about.
Yes, Chair, and the meeting on the 11th.
And that you had a meeting with Mr. Tsotsi and Mr. Koza on the morning of the 11th of
Yes.
March, around about 8 o'clock, together with Ms. Veletti and Mr. Mabilane. You say you are 100% sure about the date and the time, that it was around 8 o'clock.
That's correct, Chair.
And what was said there, you are clear about that.
I'm clear, Chair, about that.
Just to clarify to me, Mr. Tsotsi, was he checking with you that in principle you would be prepared to act if maybe he was still going to get the approval of the board or some committee, or did he just say, will you be prepared to act, and you said you would be prepared, and the whole thing ended there without knowing whether that was subject to anybody's approval or whether he was asking you to act?
Chair, he was asking us to help them by acting on the positions of those that are going to be suspended.
Yes. Okay, all right.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Selega, the other, Miss Valetti, her evidence, was it also to the effect that that meeting was on the 11th, or was it that it was on another day?
Her evidence is the same, Chair.
She said it was on the 11th.
She says, she relates what happens on the 10th.
Yeah,
So there is a strategy session for 2 days,
Yeah.
on the 9th and on the 10th. The call she receives from Mr. Koko is on the 10th, the last day of the strategy session. She meets with Mr. Koko at, she can't remember, KFC or McDonald's, on the evening of the 10th. Then she says the next day, she was called into that meeting. The next morning.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, all right. We haven't had the evidence of Mr. Mabelane, have we?
Not Mr. Mabelane,
Yes, okay.
and not Mr. Pukubja, Malesela Pukubja, which is the company secretary chair.
Yes. And do you have any affidavit? We do have an affidavit from Mr. Koza. Does he talk about it as to when this meeting may have been, or does he not?
We do have an affidavit from Mr. Koza.
But you can't remember
I can't
what he
recall
says.
offhand whether he talks about him attending this meeting where the acting
Yeah,
executives were asked to act.
okay, no, that's all right.
But I know that he denies the meeting alluded to in the minutes.
Yes.
He denies having had the meeting.
Okay, okay. And Mr. Tsotsi, does he admit having met the three on the 11th around 8 o'clock?
His version is on the 12th, is that the meeting was on the 12th,
Yes.
according to his version.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue. We didn't talk about what time we are going to try and aim to finish with Mr. Masango.
Yeah.
But I hope we can finish by 6 o'clock, depending, but
Yeah.
you must tell me if there's a problem.
No problem at all, Chair.
Okay, all right.
We could finish even before then. We
Yeah,
are-
okay,
We are
let's-
right at the end of your
Yes.
affidavit. Mr. Masango, when you are in this meeting with the chairperson, Mr. Tsotsi, and other board members, do you say to them, sorry, Mr. Chair, I had this meeting yesterday. Is this meeting now having anything to do with what I had yesterday at Melrose Arch?
Chair, we did not, we did not have a lot of conversation with the chairman at the time. He asked us, and then subsequent to that, he says we must join him to the next meeting. Now, what was going on in my mind, it was what happened yesterday to say, but hang on, what's going on? But remember, Chair, what happened yesterday in the meeting, which confused me, was that the group chief executive officer was mentioned in the meeting. Here we are on a situation. After Mr. Zolatoti has led the discussion, he said, okay, no, that's fine. Join me to the next meeting. Then we all walked out. Now, it's very tense, Chair. I must say, it was very tense in the meeting, and then we all walked up, follow him.
At this meeting, in what position did he say you would, he wanted you to act?
He said, I will act on Dan Marokano's position, which was a group executive for Group Capital.
Okay, all right. Mr. Selega?
Did you have a chance at any stage between those who acted, let's say, for instance, between you and Ms. Valetti, had a chance to talk about what experience you had at Melrose Arch?
Well, we never spoke. What I remember was that when we went to to the executive forum, there was a hot debate. The executives, ESCOM executives, they questioned the chairman, that is Mr. Zolatozzi, about why the guys are suspended. And they also questioned him, what criteria have you used to select the people who are going to act? So it was a very hot topic. And we were seated there. Zolatozzi responded to all the questions. Chair, to come direct to your question, myself and Mrs. Veleti, we did talk, but our conversation was around what is happening in the organization. Because I remember very well at the time, we never even, we did not accept Mrs. Veleti because her office was at Megawatt Park. We went into Mrs. Veleti's office. It was myself and her, and then we were talking amongst ourselves what is really happening. Mrs. Veleti, neither myself, I never spoke about Melrose Arch, but I did indicate to him to say, you know what, yesterday, Coco did talk to me. That was the discussion that was happening and all that, but we never went into the details in terms of where, what did he say and all that, because the whole building at ESCOM was very, very tense. In actual fact, since then, the whole week, nothing was really happening there because people were very, disturbed by the decisions that were made.
Did you, at any stage thereafter, meet with Mr. Salim Essa?
Well, Chair, I don't recall, but what I can recall is that at some stage, Mr. Coco did ask us to meet, but I never attended those meetings with Mr. Coco.
So when was that, after his return from suspension?
Yeah, we talked on the phone. He asked the meeting, but I never went. But I never know whether he asked the colleagues as well. Yes.
Yeah. So what is he asking you? Is he asking you come with me to meet?
No, he was saying, can we drink tea, coffee after work? Then I never went.
And what day was that?
Chair, I can't.
Was it long after?
It
the
was
11th?
long after
The 11th.
the guys are suspended, yes, and yeah.
Okay. Just to take you back, the meeting where the executives were questioning Mr. Tsotsi, is that the meeting that Mr. Tsotsi asked you to join him in after the meeting where he told you, he asked you to act?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, so from the meeting that he had with you, he went to a meeting where he was meeting the executives.
Yes.
But those executives who attended did not include the ones who were to be suspended, or were they there?
All the guys that were to be suspended were not part of
that meeting?
Of the meeting.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank
Chair,
you.
there were two meetings after the boardroom meeting.
Yeah.
It was the meeting of the executives and the media. The media was
Yes.
already waiting as well. He went and addressed the media as well.
Well, you see, my recollection is that on the evidence that I've had, at least part of the evidence, certainly from Mr. Koki, not Mr. Koki, Mr. Tsotsi, and maybe Dr. Ngubane, but certainly Mr. Tsotsi, is that there was a media briefing at some stage. Understood it to be after lunch, I may be mistaken, because by then the board had made certain decisions, and he was going to have that meeting, media briefing, to announce the decisions that had been taken. You understand? But if he had a meeting, that is Mr. Tsotsi, with you, at around 8 o'clock. And that meeting, I think you said, did not take long. Is that right?
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah. What's your estimate of how long it took? 15 minutes or
It was less than 15 minutes.
less than 15 minutes? Yes. And if from there, then he went to a meeting with the executives.
That's correct, Chair. That's my recollection.
And from the meeting with the executives, was your understanding that he was going to have a media briefing, or was he going to attend some board meeting or a committee meeting before the media briefing? You are not sure?
Chair, what I remember is that because I did attend the executive forum
Yes.
with him, and
Yes.
I did also join him when he was addressing the media.
Or you also joined him when he
Yes,
addressed
because
the meeting?
normally the executive in ESCOM, we also get invited. We are allowed to
Yes.
to go and sit and
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But at that stage, okay, I must understand, before, in your normal permanent position, were you an executive before the acting appointment,
yes, Chair,
or you were an executive?
yes.
Okay, so you would have attended such a media briefing even if the story about acting had not come up?
Yes, Chair. We spoke about the F-band at the
Yes.
EXCO level, then
Yes.
we've got the E-band.
Yes.
I was also the E-band. Now, when they
Okay.
call the executive forum, most of
Yeah.
the time, they call the F-band and the E-bands.
Oh,
So I will attend the executive forum.
Yes.
The way ESCOM used to do things, they'll first have the executive forum meeting, then media. Before they go and
Yes.
brief the media, they inform the executive, then they go to the media.
Yes. So the executive forum meeting, do you remember how long it may have taken?
Chair, it didn't take long,
An hour?
but the topic was around the suspension. And I
Yes.
remember the executives were asking a lot of questions.
Yes.
Then from there, he proceeded to
To the media briefing?
the media
And
briefing.
you joined him there?
And then, yeah, some of us joined him.
But we know, based on evidence that has been given, that on the 11th, there were these meetings that I've told you about. One, there was a board meeting in the morning, which he addressed. Then the Minister of Public Enterprises arrived to address the board. So then she came and Ms. Brown, she addressed the board. After she had left, I think the board then continued. And my understanding is that when the minister had arrived, Mr. Tsotsi was the one who went to fetch her and bring her into the meeting. I'm wondering whether, if all of that is true, you might not be mistaken about the date or times of the meetings that you are talking about, one with yourself and the other two, Ms. Valetti and Mr. Mabelane, and the time of the executive forum meeting and the time of the media briefing, whether you might not be mistaken about the times.
Yeah, look, Chair, I might not be privy to some of the other meetings.
Yes.
Than other executives who are working at Megawatt Park,
Yes,
residing
yes,
there,
yes,
and
yes.
all that. Me
Yes.
working in the project, when I
Yes.
come to the office, to head
Yes.
office,
Yes.
I come for a specific reason, then I
Yes.
go back.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So,
yes.
so that's the reason I'm saying that in terms of my recollection,
Yeah,
when we went into the boardroom, it seemed
Yeah.
as if they were there.
yeah,
And by the fact that the secretary came and fetched us, it means that there was a meeting inside the
Yes.
boardroom.
yes.
Whether there was a meeting prior to that, I don't know.
don't know.
But then after we went in, then we went to the executive
Yeah.
forum, then media. Those
Okay.
one I can confirm because I attended other meetings that were scheduled during the day
You
and the
don't know.
following days in terms of the board, I don't know.
Okay, all right. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Mr. Masango, that's an important factor to consider because we see that on the 12th of March, from the evidence that was led, 12th of March 2015, well, this is a media release by ESCOM, and the media release says the board, well, it could read anything. The board of ESCOM has today resolved to commission an independent inquiry. And so this seems to tie in with the evidence by the board, or those who have been here, which shows that it could have been after the 11th of March 2015 that there were these meetings with the executive forum, another meeting with, or the media conference could have been called on the 12th of March. I don't know whether there's a way for you to ascertain your chronology in regard to the 10th and the 11th.
Yeah, Chair, there is no way, but I think from ESCOM point of view, they can be able to ascertain and go back if the minutes were taken in these meetings and all that, and their schedule, particularly from the secretariat point of view.
Okay. For how long did you act in this position of Mr. Den Marukan?
I acted from March, I think, until August.
Until August.
Yeah, the same year.
I heard Mr. Koko at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee say that you became permanently appointed in that position.
Say it again.
Did you become permanently appointed in that position?
Yes, subsequent to that, they brought Brian Molefe, who came, I don't remember the date, and then Brian was acting GCE, and then eventually was appointed as the group chief executive officer, and then Brian appointed me, I think, around August to be permanent on the same position that I was acting on.
Yeah. I can't recall whether, did you speak about your meeting with Mr. Den Marukani?
No.
You haven't spoken about it. So you say a few days later, you called him, he didn't answer your call, or it went on voicemail. He came back to you a few days later. Did you have a meeting with him?
Yes, Chair.
And what does the two of you discuss in that meeting?
Well, maybe start with him returning your call and arranging to meet if that is what happened.
Yeah, when he returned my call, I told him that I was looking for him to discuss the meeting at Melrose Arch, but he has returned my call. Already, other things were already unfolding. Then he agreed that we must meet. Then he gave me time and a day. If I recall very well, it was a Saturday.
When he called or when you met?
No, for the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you able to remember how long, more or less, after the 11th?
Yeah, it was the Saturday of the same week.
Of the same week, yeah.
Yeah. Then we met.
And he would have returned your call when?
I think
Friday
he returned my call during the course of the week.
Oh, okay, all
yeah.
right.
But, and then he says, look.
Well, sorry, Mr. Masang. I see in your affidavit, you say that you agreed to meet on 14 March 2015. So 11, 12, 13, 14, that's 3 days after the suspension.
Yeah. It was a Saturday, if I recall very well.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the Saturday. He gave me the time, Saturday, 2 o'clock, 1400.
Where were you going to meet?
And then he told me that we will meet in Pretoria. But he will give me the direction on the day of the meeting.
Okay.
which he did.
Yes.
The 14th was a Saturday.
Yeah, it was a Saturday.
It was a Saturday, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Then we met at a coffee shop. It was for the first time I was in that coffee shop, but it was a very, very quiet place. A very, very quiet place, and I could observe only old people sitting there drinking.
Old people.
Yeah, so we met there. I must say, Chair, I had a very good relationship with Mr. Marokana as my supervisor. And then I related the story to him to say, the reason I was looking for you, it was about Mr. Machela Koko calling a meeting at Melrose Arch. Now things has overtaken things, and my question to him was that, what is happening? Why are you guys being suspended?
But did you tell him about the content of the discussion at the Melrose Arch meeting?
I explained everything to
Okay,
him.
all right.
I took him through everything that
Yeah,
happened.
and what had happened on the
Yeah,
11th.
and I
so-
even explained to him what happened the following day in the
Yes,
boardroom.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I was like now,
Yeah.
updating him, because even on the executive forum, I updated him what happened on the
Yes.
media, what happened and all that on the media briefing. And then I asked him what is his understanding in terms of why are they suspended. The response that I got from him, he said, Abraham, is politics. That's what he said to me. I said, but what do you mean is politics? He says, it's political. I can't explain it. Then I said to him, look, if that is the case, then it will be difficult for me to go and act in your position. Then I told him, I said, maybe I must go back and tell Mr. Zolatos that I will not be able to act. Then says to me, no, Abraham, don't do that. You know what we've been doing, and I will still be in contact with you. I'll talk to your colleagues to support. You know the programs that we were pushing. You guys just go and push those programs. And then we'll take it from there. And then he also advised me that from Mpumalanga point of view, the stability in the province, Mr. Marokana was responsible for that. And I was doing the administration for him around the Mpumalanga province. He says to me, my advice to you is that because we're engaging with the MEC in Mpumalanga and the Premier, who's then the Deputy President, because these things, all of them are political, keep on engaging them as we are engaging them on the political side to help us with the stability. And then that's what he said to me. Two things to say that I must keep on engaging with the Premier and the MEC. Two, I must act. You will talk to the colleagues, my colleagues at the same level, so that they support me, so that we deliver the program that we've put in place with him.
Okay, Mr. Slager.
Yeah. Mr. Masango, we are doing an investigation in this commission. And part of that is making the others aware of what is contained in your affidavit. I've given Mr. Dan Marokana your affidavit with the view to get his version on your meeting with him. And according to him, and you could clarify this, he said he didn't get the details, the content of what discussed with you at Melrose Arch from you. Are you certain that you discussed that with him? Because on the basis of that, he said he would not file an affidavit.
Well, I did take him through what was the reason for my call when I left Melrose Arch. And then I also briefed him what happened on the following day, what happened on the executive forum, what happened on the media brief.
So you would have told him that I was called to Melrose Arch by Machela Kuku, and this is what he said to me when I was there, that 4 executives will be suspended and he's going to return, but not the 3. You would have said that to him.
Yes.
Okay.
And lastly, Chair, on the Denmark-Ghana, to go back to your earlier question, after I met Denmark-Ghana, Machela Koko called and said, we are Kuluma Mak.
Was this the 3rd time he was saying to you?
Yeah,
you
he
were
says we
talking?
are Kuluma. I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, you've met Denmark-Ghana.
Yeah.
So I started to realize that the issues are very complex here.
Yes. Yeah. So you phoned Mr. Denmark after the meeting at Melrose Arch. You didn't get him, and then you phoned Miss Cry, and then he phoned and said you are Kulum.
Yeah, but he phoned me for the 3rd time after meeting Mr. Marokana.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
like
for the 3rd time he said,
yeah.
we are
But
Kulum.
the first time was when? After you had spoken to whom?
To Mrs. Cry.
Yes.
He asked me, he told me twice.
In regard to
Yeah, in the
Miss Cry.
same conversation, he says we are Kulum. I said,
Yeah.
what do you mean? He says we are Kulum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that is now after the meeting with Miss Cry or after you spoke to her on the phone?
Actually, I can't remember very well,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Has Mr. Masango did that, for lack of a better word, monitoring of your telephone calls continue after Mr. Koko had been suspended?
I can't confirm that.
You can't confirm.
Because even when he was saying I'm talking, I couldn't confirm it.
Yeah.
But I was always wondering what is happening.
Did you suspect that your cell phone might have been bugged?
Well, I suspected 2 things. I said whether it's the phone bugged or they are following. But I had that suspicion, but I can't confirm that.
I see that you conclude by your affidavit by saying that since you testified at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, you have been threatened and your safety compromised.
Yes.
Do you know by who?
Well, Chair, I don't know by who, but from time to time there were people that were following me. And sometimes when I sit in the restaurant, people will come in and take photos and take photos. Then I started to be careful, and wherever I go, I decided not to go alone.
Has that situation risen to the level where you needed to report it to the police?
Well, at some stage I did went to the nearest police station to report an incident, but they never opened a case. They just wrote on their, I think it's an OB book, something. But the reason I went to the police station, there was a drone in my house.
You mean above your house?
Above the house, yeah, the drone above the house. Then it started worrying me, and then I went to the police station and I reported it.
What is the position currently?
Say it again.
What is the position currently in your life in terms of threats and safety?
Well, as we speak, I still feel very, very unsafe. If I speak about the issue of the drone, I think it happened twice. At some stage, I called the provincial commissioner, Mr. Zuma. I told him that, look, I have this situation. So till today, I'm still very observant in terms of what is happening around me.
Yeah. You left ESCOM in November 2018, you said. Did you resign? Or were you asked to leave? Or was it a disciplinary hearing?
Chair, I did resign. I was suspended in 2017 December. I was cleared on a disciplinary hearing, and then a new board came in, and I returned back to work, I think around June 2018. I worked till November, then I resigned. Prior to my resignation, the CEO, the GCE at the time wanted to suspend me. And I felt that I'm not prepared to go through what I went through. But prior to my resignation, I had already indicated to the chairman, which was Jabu Mabuza, that look, I don't think I'm welcomed. So I told him my intentions that at some stage I'm going to resign. And then myself and Paramane, then we had a discussion. Then he intended to suspend me, then I resigned.
So was it, who was the acting CEO or CEO who wanted to resign, to suspend you before you resigned?
It was Mr. Paramane Hadebe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He confronted me, and then I explained to him to say the issues that you are raising against me are more or less the same issues that I was suspended for, and I was went through the disciplinary process for. And then I realized that he's not prepared to. He's not prepared to listen to me. But when the time he approached me, I already spoken to the chairman that, look, chairman, I think I don't feel welcome and comfortable, so at some stage I'm going to resign. Whether the chairman told him or not, I don't know.
How long after he had, that is Mr. Paramane Hadebe, had indicated that he was going to suspend you, did you resign? Was it a matter of days, a matter of weeks, or months?
Look, Chair, it was a matter of a week or two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long was it after you had told the chairperson of the board, Mr. Mabuza, that you might
Chair,
consider resigning?
it was prior to that.
Yeah,
When
about
I spoke to
months or weeks? Or you can't
it
remember?
was weeks, Chair.
It was weeks, yeah.
It was weeks.
Okay.
And Chair, I must maybe qualify my statement. And the reason I went to the chairperson was that I confronted Mr. Hadebe because there was rumors in a form, I think, of a WhatsApp that he is talking to Mr. Machela Koko and them. So that made me a bit uncomfortable because my relationship with Machela Koko was no longer good. So I confronted him, by Paramane Hadebe. And then he says, yeah, well, I'll talk to them. I'll talk to Brian. I've worked with Brian, but he never commented on Machela Koko. And then I could pick up that he's not happy the fact that I confronted him. And subsequent to that, there was also and I'll call it a rumor, Chair, because I can't prove it and I can't confirm it, that when one of the executives was acting on Paramane's place when Paramane was not there, and I was supposed to be reinstated. Pagamani refused that I got reinstated. And he cited the reason that, no, I don't want that guy to come back. So when I looked at all these issues, I realized that as much as me and Pagamani, from the work point of view, he appreciated what I was doing, but I realized that, look, probably he has made up his mind. And parallel to that, Chair, then they started the process of exiting all the executive. I'm talking to him this side. This side, we are on a process that is going to retrench all the executives that were there.
2018.
Yeah, in 2018. And then I left on the, I left on the 17th of November.
Yeah.
All the other executives were retrenched end of December.
Oh.
So we're already in that process.
Oh.
Where we're going, discussing our package. He told us that there's a decision that all of us, we must exit. And I asked him, I say, on this side, this is what you're doing with me. On this side, we're talking exit. What is really going on? And then I realized that I don't want to go through the same process. Then I decided to resign. And then my colleagues were retrenched around December 2018.
Okay, all right. Mr. Seleka?
Those are the questions we had for the witness.
Yes, okay, all right.
Yes.
Counsel for Mr. Masango, you don't have any, you don't intend any re-examination, isn't it?
Mr. Chair, there was perhaps a slip of the tongue by my learned friend for the Commission when there was a suggestion that the call that was made to Dan Marukana was made a number of days after the incident at Melrose Arch. But I think it's within your appreciation that that is not what had transpired. It may simply be a mistake by my colleague. But in fact, that call had been made on that very same day, not long after the meeting at Melrose Arch. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, yes, no, I think my understanding was that it was made on the same day. My understanding.
If that is the position, then I have
Yeah.
nothing further. Thank you.
Yes, okay,
Thank
all
you,
right.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Masango, for coming to assist the Commission. We appreciate it very much. If we need you to come back and assist us again on other matters or to clarify something on what you have told me today, we will ask you again. But thank you very much. We appreciate it. And thank you to your legal team as well that they were agreeable to us having this evening session. Thank you very much. You are now excused.
You're welcome, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Selega, and your team, and the Commission staff for sitting till late. Thank you very much. We are going to adjourn for the evening. And tomorrow, Mr. Selega, what is the latest?
Yeah. So we had arranged to start at 9:30
Yeah.
with a witness we also envisaged would be very, very short. But the witness is now represented by a law firm, and they have been in correspondence with me this afternoon, indicating that they will seek a postponement.
Oh, okay. Was it going to be one witness who was going to be short?
Yes, one witness.
Is that the witness who would have been in the evening before the postponements that happened yesterday? Or it was always arranged that
Yeah, the
he
chair-
or she would be at 9:30?
Yeah, the chairperson.
Or
well,
that's the one that we talked about?
Yes, so
Oh,
we originally wanted her for the evening session, like
Yeah.
Mr. Masango,
Yes.
but I gave the chairperson a time indication.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, no, I
you
remember.
came back
I
and said
remember.
9:30.
I remember. Well, would they be available? That's the witness that could take less than an hour.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Would they be amenable to to Thursday in the morning or Friday in the morning or next week sometime in the morning?
Yeah.
Do you know?
You mean insofar as they want a postponement?
Insofar as they want a postponement?
It may have to be next week, according
have
to
to
my
be
reading
next
of the email.
Yeah.
But I'll have to ascertain with them, Chair.
Yeah, because I don't want to come in
For
the morning to hear postponement application.
That's right.
And also just to sit for less than an hour and then I go back. It would be better if I come and start with her in the morning and then
Yes.
once she finishes, I can continue with another witness.
Yeah.
So I think let's postpone that.
Okay.
And try and agree another time with them, either this week or next week. Maybe preferably in the morning. Yeah, is that fine?
That should be fine, Chair.
Yeah, so you can tell them that in the light of the fact that she was going to be the only witness and they want a postponement, I've postponed it to a date to be arranged, but you will talk to them.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So for the benefit of the public, there will be no hearing tomorrow, but on Thursday and Friday, there will be a hearing in regard to, I think, money flows unit of the commission concerning Estina. We are going to adjourn for the evening. We adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.